Welcome back to Smoke and Mirrors. This is Rob. This week we're going to be looking at a movie called Marked for Death. It's one of my favorites from my childhood. It's starring Steven Seagal. So I hope you guys enjoy. Thanks.
Smoke and Mirrors, guys. Welcome to the movie factory.
Ooh, so exciting, isn't it?
Trust me.
Please, we can kill it.
Ferocious, aren't
I'm trying to put Tiger Bomb on this jungle's nuts.
you? Want your eyes big? You're not gonna die, you bitch. Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
Now you want to get nuts? Wakanda forever! Yes! Fuck you too!
You're gonna see some serious shit.
Welcome back, everyone. So this week for Marked for Death, we'll do a little breakdown, give you a bit about the plot, and we're going to be looking into my memories of the movie. But then I've kind of broken it down into four sections. So the hero, the villain, because the hero can't be great unless we've got a great villain. The action, and does it actually hold up nowadays with all of our PC culture and sort of wokeness? How do we view it now? And then some of my final thoughts and bits of trivia and goofs and whatnot from the movie. So this one's directed by Dwight H. Little, who gave us Murder at 1600 with Wesley Snipes. He also gave us Rapid Fire with Brandon Lee, which is another great action movie. And he also directed before this, I think, Halloween 4, which also starred Danielle Harris, who makes an appearance here. So we get a script by Michael Grays and Mark Victor. And this one's starring Steven Seagal as John Hatcher. We get Keith David as Max. We get Tom Wright as Charles. We got Basil Wallace in his first feature film role as Screwface, the villain. We get Joanna Pacula as Leslie. We get Elizabeth Grayson, who I believe also starred in the Highlander series, as Melissa. And then we get Danielle Harris as Tracy. So the plot revolves around DEA agent John Hatcher. So there's this drug bust that the movie sort of starts with, and we see Danny Trejo getting chased through the streets, and it goes horribly wrong. John Hatcher, who's played by Steven Seagal, loses his partner in the process, and then he goes back to his captain. He's kind of like, I've had enough of this shit. I'm leaving. Then he goes to his priest and he's like, what do? I've taken money. I've killed people. I've slept with informants. Like, what's the go here? What do I do? And the priest tells him, forget about these things. Distance yourself from them. Go back to your family. So that's exactly what John Hatcher does, is he goes back to his hometown of Chicago. Seagal himself is a Michigan resident. He grew up there as well. So he finds when he goes back to Chicago that all the place that he left is not the place that it is now. And there's drugs that have soon hit the streets. And he sees these Jamaican guys selling them at one of his schools. So at his friend's school that he coaches at. So he tries to distance himself a little bit and not get involved. But then, like all action movie cliches, he's drawn back into the life when he can't sort of run from it. So my memories, when I was 6 years old, in South Africa, we kind of watched this as a family. And this is weird because nowadays it's all ratings and everything. But back then, we didn't really have that. I remember as a family, we would sit down and watch movies like Bloodsport and Total Recall, things that would just I don't think families would do nowadays. We try to distance our kids from that sort of stuff, and with good reason. I understand it, but 6-year-old me sat there, and I was so impressionable and taken aback by Steven Seagal. I made my mom grow my hair, let me get a haircut, just so I can put it up in a ponytail. Because Steven Seagal with a ponytail was kind of badass back then. And I would check every night to make sure I could, like, you know, get my hair in a ponytail. And yeah, where I eventually cut my hair off when I came to Australia. It was the first time I think that I seen voodoo. It was this and Predator 2, I believe, both with Jamaican villains. And yeah, I really sort of enjoyed seeing the action. Never understood a lot of what was kind of happening and all the different plays and stuff, but like in terms of being blown away by all these things that were happening, I really loved it. Present day me, so I sat down, I watched the movie, and I was still into it. You kind of see the flaws in terms of Seagal and his acting ability. And then when you hear some of the stories behind the scenes, which I'll get into later, it kind of takes away from Seagal himself. But still, in all that, he's surrounded by this really cool cast that really helps his character excel in this. So I'll get into it. So the first thing that I want to discuss is the hero. So the hero here is Steven Seagal's John Hatcher. So he's definitely been through some shit. By the time that we see him in this movie, he's fed up. He's just had enough. He's slapping people around. He catches a young Danny Trejo in the start, and he's slapping him around, and his partner's like, "Oh, I'm having second thoughts," so he slaps him around, and it's just it's funny because he's like this hard boiled badass. Then we kind of get taken back to his home where he grew up, and we see pictures of him, and it's really cool because there's actual young pictures of Seagal, and we kind of see him as a child, as I think you see him studying Aikido in there, and then a picture of him and his best friend Max, who's played by Keith David, and they're it looks like they're in Vietnam or something like that. So then you know that he's kind of trained in firearms. We see him trying to reconnect with his family. We get introduced to his sister, his niece. I think what is his brother-in-law, who makes like a 30-second appearance, and then his mother as well. So and we also know he's an Aikido expert. So Aikido, which is a martial art that is designed to sort of, you take, you're disarming a swordsman. So it was what samurai used to when they took the sword away from their opponent. And that plays really, really well here, because I had never seen, until that point when Seagal burst onto the scene, I'd never seen anyone use martial arts like that. So it's a lot of using people's own body weight against them, a lot of throws, a lot of breaks, and locks and stuff. And he looked super fast and super slick. And if done well, the camera would catch it so that it was so fluid and engaging that you just like sort of, you lose yourself in the fight. Nothing compared to the slickness and I would sort of say the acrobatics of the fight scenes that we see nowadays. But he almost seemed unstoppable. And that's also something that I'll tell you about later on as well. All right, so the villain. So we get Screwface, who is scary as fuck. So he's got like these jade-colored eyes, this really powerful voice. Basil Wallace, who was actually born in Jamaica, like he read the script, he got the character, he loved it and everything, but he actually injected it with a lot more authentic Jamaican patois to make that character a bit fuller and sort of replace words with ones that they'd actually use, which is actually cool. His character's a voodoo priest as well. So while he's kind of heading up this drug organization, he practices voodoo, and you see it a lot in this movie as well. They use the signage on buildings that they're going to do deals in or hit or whatnot. They use it in rituals. You see them try to take the power from someone, and that man drawing like things in blood on people before he kills them. You see them try to do these rituals to John Hatcher and his sister, and it was pretty creepy because you kind of, it's got that horror kind of vibe to it where you're so caught up in the like the I don't know, the violence in these killings, like just the heinousness of them. Like they're using knives, it's not clean or anything like that, so it's going to be painful, and you're kind of wincing as you're watching it. Screwface tells his men midway through the movie that anyone that betrays him gets repaid 1,000 times. So who's going to betray him? And like that's what he means. Like the rituals and everything, the brutality in it is what's really going to kill him. And this guy almost seems unkillable as well. Not because he's a bullet sponge or he just keeps getting hit or anything like that. He has that presence in this movie, and Basil Wallace really, really brought that to this. He's also got some of the maddest fits in here. There's one where he's got this red jacket and this black hoodie pulled up over the dreads, and it just looks fly because he's also got the sunnies on at the same time. Like they could rock that shit today. The action. So the action, Seagal is genuinely like a triple threat because he can do guns, he can do martial arts, and he can use explosives as well, which came in sort of Under Siege, and then it just became part of the character that he would play in these movies. So he uses two in this one. He uses the Aikido, the martial arts, and he uses guns. What was great as well was just capturing the action in this. The camera isn't overly stylized and distracting with close-ups and zooms and all sorts of things. So it can easily capture whatever's happening. So you get the full movement of some of the forms that Seagal uses, which is great. And it makes sure that that's the main draw because there's a lot happening. Like there's bits where he pulls the guy over onto the one side only to flip him over and then grab his arm and break it and stuff like that, all in one fluid movement. So if you were then to intercut that with here's a close-up of his face, his wrist, this block, it'd just take away from that. And we also see him use a lot of this. So there's a couple of sequences in here where in the jewelry store after this car chase, there's this fight in this jewelry store where he takes out two guys, and he uses that a lot. There's a sequence in Jamaica at the end, and then the last fight in this warehouse that they have back in Chicago, that Seagal's able to show a few moves off. Take into account that this was the third movie that he'd starred in. So he had been in Above the Law, he had been in Hard to Kill with Kelly LeBrock, and then now this is his third one. There's a cool little action sequence car chase that takes place as well. The funny thing is that they try to make Chicago look very much like LA, but there's no palm trees in Chicago. So it very much looks like LA. And what I've read about this is that they've actually taken a lot of inspiration from The French Connection with Popeye Doyle and that car chase through the streets. And then, of course, the voodoo rituals, which are pretty cool in the movie. Scary, yes, but it was a good insight into some of the things that up until that point I hadn't really seen. But I was also sick, so what the hell do I know? And does the movie hold up? Mostly yes. The hand-to-hand action sequences still look really good. The camera's placed in the right position. Seagal looks really good as well. He doesn't look out of his depth, is what I liked. Like, he looks very confident when he does the moves. Whereas, like, sometimes when they intercut and close-ups and stuff, it can seem forced and it doesn't seem like it's him. And he even throws, like, a couple of kicks in there as well. I think Screwface is one of the best villains that we've gotten in an action movie. He's got quite a bit of screen time as well, and that helps sell the movie as well. It also helps sell that the relationship between Screwface and John Hatcher in the movie, because it makes Hatcher more heroic when he finally does take him down. The supporting cast is really good as well. We got Keith David there playing the best friend. We've seen Keith David play, like, the other badass in the room in The Thing and They Live. And it's cool to kind of see him almost be, like, toe-to-toe with Seagal as well. Like, they're on the same level there. Basil Wallace himself, and a couple of the other guys. The only thing is the women don't get much to do. So there's a lot of, like, save her, Johnny, or other bits and pieces, but it just seems like it's crying, dying, and kind of just sexifying the screen, rather than actually adding something that moves the story along. They bring a character up through the movie. Joanna Pacula's character, Leslie, they kind of build her up as someone that has been integral in this investigation thus far, and then she just ends up being someone that just wants to be with Seagal's character, and then he kind of plays it as the, no, I'm sorry, I'm just focusing on the mission. Like, I'm not trying to get into anything. The good thing is that they don't actually get together, which I appreciated, because it didn't cheapen her as a character any more than what they already did in that previous scene. It's funny that Seagal's character could be professional, but her character could not. But I'll move along. There is a great scene in Jamaica where one of the guys in the crew with Max and John Hatcher, Charles, they go to Jamaica because they find out that that Screwface has fled to Jamaica, and then they're in the streets of Jamaica. Sun's out, it looks great. It's almost like this market kind of vibe. And then Charles just says, look, not everyone's like Screwface in Jamaica, which I really appreciated, because it kind of gives us a sense that these screenwriters or the director really wanted to sort of showcase that point. And in fact, reading statistics, they say there's only, I think, 1.4% of the population that's actually involved with drugs, or a drug dealer, or a voodoo priest or something like that. Everyone else is just living their normal lives. So it was nice to kind of see that, because the last thing that, like, you kind of want to think after a movie like this, and especially like me when I was watching it when I was 6 years old, and this scene might have just gone straight over my head, was that Jamaicans are just dread-headed drug dealers, and that's not the case. So I'm great. It's great even in the 90s that they were able to actually put this in, and that's kind of all I had in terms of, does it hold up? Yes, I think it does. I think if you're looking at it through the lens of, this was a movie made in the 90s. when other titles like Hard to Kill or Demolition Man or even Bad Boys came out, and you can kind of see the progression throughout all those movies, even that things were changing. But it still holds up. So my final thoughts and some facts. So the budget for this movie was $12 million, which was kind of mid-range back then in the 90s. Well, they would have shot this in like 88, 89, something like that. The worldwide gross was like $60 million, $58 million. So it was a 5 times multiplier, which is a hit for Seagal. Seagal's movies didn't do any more than like 80 to 100 million, with I think Exit Wounds being his last big movie that grossed about $80 million. So like he got to go on and do the next movie and the next movie. I think in total, I think he only made like 7 or 8 big movies. He's made more direct-to-video movies than these big sort of tentpole movies. Some trivia for you. So people have disputed it and claimed it was fake. Others claimed very much that it was true. But this is the movie that Seagal was choked out on. So I always thought it was Under Siege, that he got into an altercation with one of his stunt doubles, and then, you know, they threw down and Seagal got his ass kicked. But what I've read on the net was that Seagal didn't have any respect for the stuntmen. He kept hitting them and sort of just treating them like shit. And then he started making all these claims like, I'm a better fighter, I'm tougher than you and whatnot. And there was one where he just went, you know what? I'm so trained in Aikido that I can't be choked out. One of the stunt guys on the set was like, well, I'm happy to put that to the test for you. Seagal was like, cool, bring it on. The guy proceeded to choke him out. So there's a couple of different takes on what happened at this part of the story. So there's one take that says, well, Seagal passed out, and then he had to be woken up. Another is that Seagal passed out and then shit his pants, which is wild. But a lot of people say that it happened. If you ask Seagal, he will tell you, don't ever bring this shit up to me again. It never happened. I've got one person that can confirm that it didn't happen at all. So I would never ask the man. That's just what it is. There are multiple versions of this movie out there. There's an uncut version. So unfortunately, I couldn't get that version for this retrospective and sort of review on this movie. There's an uncut version which shows a minute of extra footage. So that minute is a lot of like broken bones, broken necks. There's a bit more on the back break at the end, and there's a chop. I believe a neck chop that completely kills this guy in the jewelry store bit. So in the version that I watched, Seagal kicks the guy and then apparently he just dies from it. So I don't know. Take from that what you will. If you can get the uncut version, get it. These movies always play better when none of the frames are taken out and shit's changed. Seagal's into a couple of different things. He's almost like a master guitar player. And he actually, for this movie, got Jimmy Cliff to sing a song. The song's called John Crow. Jimmy Cliff actually performs it in the movie, which is pretty cool. And it's the one with the screw face, you know that your time's up. And Seagal himself, he plays on the song, but he also sings. I think he's doing like backup vocals or something for Jimmy Cliff. But it's pretty cool. The villain Screwface was actually named after the Bob Marley song, and at one point the script was actually called Screwface. Seagal was very vocal about the clothes that his character would wear, because I don't know, if it was just a style or whatnot, but he preferred to wear like a really baggy shirt tucked in to the most painted on jeans ever. The jeans are like really tight, and yeah, it's wild to kind of see. But it plays well off Seagal's frame. He looks pretty tall. I don't know if that's what he was kind of going for, but it's definitely a reflection of the times then. We already touched. Seagal also requested that certain guns be in the movie. So the silenced submachine gun that he uses was specifically made for the movie. Seagal's big about guns as well, just in like, real life. He's got a deal with a Russian company that he also does the promotion for as well. So he requested that gun be in there, the pistol that Hatcher uses, and I think also the long range sniper rifle too. Which is pretty cool. Like if an actor knows their shit about guns and can bring that authenticity to it, why not? I would utilize that as well. So weirdly, Predator 2 was also shooting, I think, around the same time that this movie was shooting. So Predator 2 came out, I think, a year or two after this. And this actually made more money than Predator 2, weirdly. But Seagal would actually call the director, Stephen Hopkins, up and then just rag on him that Predator 2 didn't make as much money. He did this several times. I don't know if this was just an ego boost for Seagal or whatnot, but there you have it. And the last point was that Seagal had a demand and something, I think, a rider written in his contract or whatnot, that his character just wouldn't get hit. And Warner Brothers really stuck to that and honored that with Hard to Kill and with Out for Justice. But when they made this movie, it was actually at Fox, and Fox didn't play that shit. They wanted Seagal to get hit in this movie. So there's scenes there where Seagal's getting pushed around, beaten up in the last fight, which is good to see. I would rather see that than just to see your hero kind of go in, do his thing, come out clean. You know what I mean? Like, where's the where's the struggle and the challenge in that? That just means that your villain really wasn't shit. So yeah, Fox wouldn't allow this, which meant that Seagal actually got hit. This movie's really, really cool. It's got a score by James Newton Howard, who also did Aliens and heaps of other scores. It felt like a nice grounded sort of movie with horror elements. I really enjoy this movie. It's one of the ones where it was more violent than everything else. Like, there's eye gouging in this movie, there's decapitations, there's stabbings, there's gunfights and whatnot. And it's just everything you'd sort of want in an action movie. I think it's one of Seagal's best, but I also really enjoy Under Siege because he brings the bombs into it and everything, and it just felt tactical. Whereas this felt more like revenge-ish and more sort of urban, but urban in the actual sense of the word urban. I don't mean sort of a nice way of trying to play off shitting on the black community. I'm gonna end it there because I don't think there's much more. But if you haven't seen this movie, check it out. It's worth looking at. Yeah, I don't think you'll be upset. But that's the next movie. I will be back next week with our third movie in Just Action, July and August. I hope you're enjoying the series. I'll keep the third movie a surprise, but I will say that it crosses the water. It's not in the States, much like Bloodsport was. Actually, you know what? This has been pretty diverse so far. But yeah, keep sticking around because we've got a lot more movies to kind of get through before we get to our final one. Crossing genres in the next couple as well, trying to make sure that we hit as many action stars as we can. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy. Take care. Love yourself. Love movies. And I will see you next week.
I'll be back.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Hold on to your butts.